Hello, how you doing? Hope you're having a great time wherever you are in the world. So today we're going to talk about this, the Nikon Z6 Mark III. Now, I wasn't really expecting to be testing out a Nikon camera in 2025 at all. I've been hanging around waiting for the new announcements from Sony. I currently use the Sony A7 IV. Apparently, the Sony A7V has been pushed back to the middle or later part of 2025. And I found myself in the awkward predicament that I need something for this current wedding season and for upcoming corporate jobs. And the Sony A7 IV, unfortunately for me, can't fill that role anymore. I was hoping the A7V would be out in time, but it's not. So here we are with the Nikon Z6 Mark III. And it's a pretty serious reason why I'm considering moving away from the A7 IV to something like the Nikon Z6 Mark III. And to be honest, the short version is, quite recently on a client shoot, my Sony A7 IV overheated at probably the most important part of that whole day's shooting, losing the footage for the client at a very, very important moment. The camera basically overheated, shut off, completely corrupted the file it had been recording, and it genuinely nearly cost me thousands of dollars. So I thought to myself, I can't really be having that. Even though that's the first time the Sony had overheated for me, it was such an important moment, and with barely any warning signs, I thought I can't have this on a future shoot again. And that started me off looking at other camera systems. The first one I initially thought of was Canon, the R6 Mark II and the R5. Being a Canon shooter originally, I actually did purchase the R6 Mark II and the R5. Obviously, as you can probably tell, I don't have them anymore. So I'll make another video in the future letting you know what I found in comparison to the A7 Mark IV and the reasons why they're no longer with me. And I got rid of them and we're now onto the Nikon Z6 Mark III. But yeah, having the camera do that to me at such an important time completely shook my confidence in the system. So, unfortunately, the Sony system is great. But for me, being someone who shoots hybrid and a lot of corporate video, it unfortunately has to go. So this video is going to be a first impressions overview. I've only had the camera for a couple of days. I've not taken it out for a shoot. This is going to be my first impressions, getting the camera out, popping a battery in it, putting a lens on the front, testing it around the house, animals, kids, all that sort of stuff, all the basics like you do when you get a new bit of kit. You're excited to get out of the box and give it a try. So this is going to be my initial first impressions, what I think of the camera, what I found so far. That all may change in the future, but, here we go. Here's my first findings. A couple of pros and cons, starting with the cons. Now, this is exactly the same as the Sony, this con, but you don't get a charger in the box. You only get a USB-C cable. But where it's completely different to the Sony is with a Sony, you plug a USB-C into the camera and you can plug it into a power block. You can plug it into the wall. You can plug that USB-C into anything at the other end, and the Sony will take power from it and charge itself. Be that slow, be that fast, it doesn't matter, it'll charge itself. Where that differs, I found with the Nikon, unless you've got a decent USB-C PD to plug the USB-C cable into with this Nikon, it either charges horrendously slowly or not at all. So I'm lucky I tested it now and had a look and managed to find myself a decent USB-C PD. Otherwise, you'd be online scrabbling to try and find something from Amazon to get delivered. Not the greatest first impression, to be honest. I don't understand why this is such a problem. It's not as if the batteries are as powerful as the Sony ones. But, I'm not an engineer, I don't know, but not a great first impression, to be honest. Next up, when I finally managed to turn it on, is the menus. The menus are awful. They are dated, hard to work out, hard to navigate, and I'd go as far as to say they are far worse than the old menus we used to have on the Sony A7 III. I mean, that menu was okay, and things kind of roughly were where they were supposed to be, and with a bit of jiggering, you can find stuff. But this Nikon is just not intuitive at all. At first I thought, it's all right, a little bit of muscle memory and I'll get used to it. And I'm sure I will get used to it. But it's not just a muscle memory thing. I've tried pretty much every single camera brand out there. This is just an unintuitive menu. It's not easy to use. It's not laid out correctly. It's just not very good. And it really does need fixing and sorting. Hopefully with their next cameras, Z9 Mark II, Z8 Mark II, Z7 Mark III, or whatever it is they're coming out with, that menu system can be looked at and be given an overhaul. Because, I'm struggling to find the right word, so I'm going to use this one. They're shit. This is a pro and a con. The build quality. This thing is built fantastic. It is built like a tank. This thing feels great in the hand. Definitely heavier than my Sony A7 IV, and it is noticeable straight away that it's heavier. The grip is deep, comfortable. The camera's nice to hold, and even though it's heavier, I can see this being, nice and comfortable to use for a full shoot or a full wedding day, 10, 12 hours or whatever. It really does feel nice in the hand. If anything, it feels premium to a point. The premium part of that stops with, unfortunately, the buttons. The buttons feel awful, really bad. The buttons are very, very cheap. The D-pad on the back here is just spongy. It inspires no confidence at all. All the buttons are spongy, not very satisfying to click. The thumb, this boy here, There you go, the little thumb movement sticky thing. Again, doesn't really feel as good as the Sony's, and not as good as the Canon R6 Mark III, not as good as a Canon R5, which I know it's a higher end product than this is, but just doesn't feel nice at all to use. It really just feels very cheap. Now on to probably one of the most important things, otherwise I probably would have gone for a Panasonic or a Fuji, is the autofocus. And on first use, just around the house, like I say, kids, animals, random bits and bobs, flowers, on the side, that sort of thing. It's okay. It's not bad, but it's not giving me that instant confidence I got, and I still do get with my Sony A7IV, which is surprising considering that Sony A7IV uses the previous generation's autofocus technology. The new ones all have an AI chip, the A7R5 and the A1s, A9s and Mark IIIs and all that. And this didn't feel like it gave me the instant confidence that the Sony does. The lock-on tracking feels very nervous, very jittery indeed, and reminded me quite a bit of the R6 Mark II. But the R6 Mark II was not as jittery or nervous as this is when it locks onto something. Yeah, it'll hold focus, but it just doesn't feel very solid, and definitely not on the locked on sort of way I'm used to from using a Sony for years. It reminds me quite a lot of the, like I say, the Canon R6 Mark II, where in use on a wedding day for the R6 Mark II, if you had a bride on a groom's shoulder and you wanted to focus on the ring with her out of focus in the background, you would, lock onto it, move the camera to get your shot, recompose. And by the time you'd done that, it had crawled off up her hand or was on the end of her finger, or had moved 2 knuckles across, or decided to go down an arm or something. And this gives me a similar sort of feeling when testing it around the house, locking onto objects and recomposing. It does have that same jittery sort of movement where it seems to have a mind of its own, and like the thing just crawls off somewhere further up a hand, or onto an object which was next to it, and you're wondering why it's there. The Sony, you just focus, recompose, and it just doesn't move. Wherever you put that focus point, it sticks to it like shit to a blanket. It will not move. It's just locked there. And this doesn't seem to do that as well. Same as the Canon didn't seem to do as well. The autofocus on the Canon was bloody amazing, but yeah, with the focus and recompose stuff on things like the ring or maybe the flowers and other things, it was very nervous and jittery. Time will tell if the Nikon will give me a similar sort of confidence that I get with the Sony. And the only way I can do that really is to use it on a proper full shoot on a wedding day or a corporate shoot and really put it to the test and see how that works out. And I'll come back here and give you the results from that and let you know if that jittery autofocus really is something to worry about, or whether it looks like it's crawling all over the place, but it's actually getting what you want, and just deciding to be a little bit of a weirdo about it. Another thing I noticed with the autofocus is the face detect is really good. It detects faces from very far away from what I could see. The only difference between this and the Sony is that I found that the Sony found eyes at a closer distance than this camera did. So if someone, for instance, was walking towards me, this appeared to catch their eye a lot later in that walk than the Sony did. Maybe even 2/3 as the distance, or maybe even half the distance. And then it seemed to catch the eye and stuck to it. But yeah, it didn't seem to find the eye in longer distances compared to the Sony or the R6 Mark II from what I remember. When it comes to video features, this thing is a little bit of a beast. It is absolutely stacked with tech. Anything you want up to 6K 60 in RAW full frame, this thing can do. So in terms of features, this thing is literally filled to the rafters with anything you can possibly want, apart from open gate. This can do it, which is great to have in a camera. And it's, I'd say it's probably a bit of a video shooter's dream, apart from one thing, and that's something I found with the Canon R6 Mark II actually, is that there isn't really any data rate options. You've either got high quality, middle quality, and nothing else. And this thing chews through memory like you wouldn't believe. I'm used to putting a 256 card in my Sony or the Canon, and that is more than enough to shoot 4K 60 for the whole day, including, a long ceremony, 30, 40 minutes, speeches up to 40, 50, sort of minutes, and still shoot all the B-roll for the day and anything else I could want for the day on a 256 card. Now, a 256 card in this at 4K 60 is only 1 hour, 23 minutes. And that is nowhere near enough. You take the rough with the smooth, obviously amazing video features, but not enough data rate options to let me choose what I want the camera to do for me. I would like to be able to choose whether I want it to be the best thing since sliced bread in terms of picture quality, whether I don't mind quality dropping ever so slightly for a wedding. You don't need it to be the most pristine quality ever. 4K from any full frame camera, even at a low data rate, as long as it's 10-bit, looks fantastic in the end when done properly. So really disappointed that I have had to get rid of my 256 CF Express Type B cards and order some 512 cards. It's a big outlay. I mean, they're not overly expensive, but it's a financial outlay that I wasn't expecting to have to pay. So something to be mindful of. This thing will chew through your cards a lot more than a Sony or a Canon will. And that has a knock-on effect on workflow and storage costs. In my head, not only do I need to get more CF Express Type B cards, but I also need to get more hard drives now. So that's another $200, $300, $400 I need to get on some extra, two or 4 terabyte NVMe drives, just put the content onto to edit or store. So that's worth bearing in mind. Hello, this is me from the future. And just before I put the video out, I found another thing with the camera which I thought would be worth mentioning. For me, when I'm doing hybrid coverage with my Sony A7IVs, I take photos like normal, as you normally do, click, 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 click. And when I want to do video, just press the video record button, capture myself a little bit of footage, and that's me done. Turns out with the Nikon Z6 Mark III, you can't actually do that, even though it's got a video record button right there. I could be wrong. I've looked in the settings. I can't seem to see. Here we go. Look, I've looked in the settings. I can't seem to see a place where you can change that. So when you're in photo mode, it will record video for you. So what you have to do if you want to record video is, if you're doing hybrid, obviously, is click, click, click like normal, flick the switch into video mode. Then the video record button works. And then obviously stop your recording, flick it back to photo, and you're off taking photos again. To me, that seems a little bit cumbersome, and it seems like an extra step that just doesn't need to be there. I don't know why it is there. Yeah, if it turns out you can change that button into a record when you're in photos mode, I'll update this video and let you know, or leave a comment down below. I'll pin it to the top. But yeah, that's another big omission for me. Yeah, if I would have known it, if I would have known it didn't do this, I probably would have second guessed picking one up. And maybe wait for the A7IV. Although I've got it now. This works the same way as the R6 Mark II. With the R6 Mark II, you can record video with the record button, but it actually goes into full auto mode, which is a pain in the arse. But with the R6 Mark II, same as this, if you want to record video properly with your proper settings and in C-Log, you have to flick it over to video mode and then record. So I am used to it because I did a good chunk of a wedding season with the Canons. But yeah, it's a pity this one doesn't seem to be able to record with this one in photo mode. But I will keep you up to date. Right, let's get back to the video. And a quick mention, as you probably saw, I also picked up the 40 f2. There we go, the 40mm f2. And for the money, he seems great. It was £189. I think it's on offer at the moment, the same in the US. So it's probably going to be around about $200, $180, something like that. Yeah, tiny, lightweight, sharp. Autofocus is more than fast enough. Yeah, I can't wait to use it on a proper shoot and, see what results I get. But so far, it looks great. Now, I know this probably sounds like a lot of critique for a first impressions video. I probably made it sound like I'm going to sell it the moment I stop recording this. That's not the case at all. I'm really happy I got it. And I know I had quite a few things to say about the autofocus, but looking at it from a different point of view, yes, it may not be as good as the Sony, in this first impression. So we'll see what it's like. But I do think it's probably more than good enough for weddings and events and corporate gigs, which is, what I'm going to be using it for. So I do have confidence in the ability it's got. I'm just used to something which is a little bit more rock solid and less jittery. But like I say, on a shoot, we'll see what it's like, and I'll come back here and let you know my worries are right, and the thing is all over the shop, or whether I need worried and the end results are great. But I'll let you know either way. I'm really impressed with the build quality. I'm impressed with the feel of the camera. The buttons are awful. The menus are horrid and were made by someone who wants to hurt people who use it. It's really bad. But apart from that, first impressions are great. Really well built. An amazing camera for the money. I paid £1,500. I think you can find it yourself if you look around for a similar sort of price in dollars, so $1,500 to $2,000. If you have a good look around, and it seems to be worth every penny. And fingers crossed, it gives me everything I need so I can move away from the Sony and not have those overheating problems again, and get a little bit of confidence in my gear again. If you've got a Z6III or a Z8 or any other Nikon cameras, or if you've got a Sony or a Canon and you've been considering the switch, let me know down below what you think of your Nikon cameras, or if you found any of this first impression stuff useful or interesting. Let me know what you think. Thanks for spending a bit of time with me. Wherever you're in the world, hope you're having a great time, and I love your face.